Sorry.
I actually I briefly mentioned there was also I had forgotten something from my week.
Yeah.
Just to cause even more delay here. I don't have to talk about it too long, but in case it's moderately interesting to you at all, while I was sick with COVID, I was able to, I know, right on time to the party, finally catch up with watching all of a show called Rome that you may or may not be familiar with. So
Oh my
I do
God.
I really am trying to fix this about myself.
Titus Pullo. Let's go.
Titus yeah. So I do not watch like enough shows. I still need to watch through Sopranos, Benjamin Bad, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Never watched Game of Thrones. I am like media illiterate because I just play boomer shooters. But I finally, Marika, she has the DVDs for it, and we were both sick with COVID, and so just watched through all of Rome, and
Yes.
it's honestly I loved it. I loved it, and I looked. She tells me it got canceled because it was too expensive, and I looked it up, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The show was successful. People liked it, but it was still so expensive that it got canceled,
In a
and
pre-Game of Thrones world, right?
then the same producers and learned from this mistake and went and made Game of Thrones. The actor for Mark Antony was quoted as saying they stole our show because Game of Thrones is basically like they did Rome and they were like, okay, we've now learned how to not spend so much that it has to get canceled despite succeeding.
And you
So
can
it was
see
like,
and you can
yeah, go
see
ahead.
the exact same budgetary setup for when it comes to war scenes where both Rome and Game of Thrones just pan away and pan back to the aftermath of the battle
Yeah.
because this is not a movie. We can't afford it. You know?
I went and learned because the second season moves so fast, and yeah, it's because they knew they were getting canceled. Turns out,
Mhm.
like season two, you may remember, a lot of happens. Spoilers for ancient history, but there's the whole thing with the demise of Brutus, and like the whole Brutus thing was supposed to take like another like 3 seasons and like we were supposed to be in Egypt for a really long time and it was really supposed to stretch out a lot. There was a question on the podcast recently about like things ending, having to get a rushed ending or whatever. And this was one of those where season two is like, Jesus Christ, it kind
Yeah.
of like feels lackluster. And the reason
Yeah.
was because they were getting axed, so they wanted to like put it in some kind of place. But I looked it up and there actually was stuff. I'm going to do this to give myself hope, even though I shouldn't. There was stuff about possibly continuing it as a movie. They have a script, and all the actors still wish they could work on Rome. Everybody wants it, and so they have like a movie
Mm.
script for like 20 years later, continuing the story from where it left off at the end of season two. Probably like never gonna happen, right? But it's still it was something nice to learn where it's like, I can give myself this hopium.
Yeah. No,
But yeah, Rome.
things kind of go downhill after the death of Julius Caesar. Kind of
Yeah, it
like
really
real
does.
Rome. What? No, huh?
Yeah, yeah, for real.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
dictators.
Caesar stuff is
Woo.
Caesar stuff. Caesar was like really. I didn't expect to say this, but Caesar was a really interesting character.
Right?
I
Oh,
loved the stuff with Caesar.
actually, so we're saying it wrong. It's actually Gaius Julius Caesar.
Caesar, yeah, yeah, yeah. Great
True
stuff.
bread for true Romans. It's
But
such a good show, man.
yeah, I really liked it. I definitely. So here's shout out for Rome, right on schedule. Fucking like 20 years late or whatever.
Nice. Yeah. Well, yo, I just remember like my friend I remember my friend recommended it cuz he's just like, "Yo, you got to check this show out. Like Cleopatra is super hot. It's crazy."
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
They put her in.
"What?" So I was like, "Oh
Yeah,
shit. Okay." You know,
yeah.
but no, it really does have a lot of those proto Game of Thrones like this character has an attitude that you're going to buy into, you know,
Right.
the
Yeah.
the wit, the banter, the sarcasm, the fucking, cutting jibes and the politics with
They
sass.
they really got me in with the two main characters, Lucius Varenus and Titus Pullo. Like
Yeah.
because I was like, she started the video, and I was like, I know what's gonna happen. It's more of this ancient history stuff. All the characters are gonna be like, my lord, my lady, and I'm gonna get bored and walk away. And then they start showing me Titus Pullo being sarcastic, imprisoned for defying an order on the battlefield, even though he's like a hero of the unit or whatever. And I was like, I love this guy, and they totally got me in with the two main characters. I just
Hmm.
love that bromance they have. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you know, I think they did it was a pretty great job too as well, where it's like, look, we all know historically who Caesar and Brutus are, so how interesting can this relationship be? And they do a great job of making it
Right.
very interesting
Yeah,
up until
yeah.
the moment, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And they and
the
in the moment, spoilers, Caesar dies. In the
What,
moment,
dude?
he there's, I swear to God they knew. There's like Caesar's on the floor and Brutus is like coming up to him, or whatever, and they're having like the Caesar is dying moment, and I swear to God they bait you because
yes,
you're waiting for
yes,
it.
exactly.
You're waiting.
You're waiting
You're
for
waiting
it.
for
Yep,
A2 Brute,
and it
Caesar
doesn't
looks at
come.
him and he's like,
Yep,
and he
yep.
dies, and I'm like,
It's
they're fucking with me.
it's in his look though.
Yeah, it's
right?
in his look.
They
It's in the
know
look.
exactly what you're waiting for, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't fucking hit you. It's so effective. It's really
Say
good.
the line, Caesar.
No, he's dead. He doesn't say the line. It's
Yeah,
great. And then also, yeah, well, I mean, again, season 2, things gets rushed up and go downhill. I feel like everything Augustus related kind of just like it's like late
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, right? It's like, oh my God, like what are we doing?
Yeah, really weird that Mark Zuckerberg becomes the main character of Rome.
God, right? But that being said, though, Attia of the Julii, I call for justice.
Yeah, yeah.
A hell of an exit remains a hell of an exit. Like as
True.
far as the late season goes, that was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that shit was nuts,
You
dude.
know,
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Rome
good,
did.
good. I'm glad that all this time later, post Game of Thrones world, that you still enjoyed that.
Yeah, yeah. Recommend easily Rome.
Mhm.